Welcome back to Design to Thrive podcast. We have a amazing guest. His name is Rich Lewis, all the way from Georgia, with Pathways Counseling Clinic. Hello, Rich.
Well, hello there, Knock. Good to see you today.
How's the weather out there in Georgia?
Georgia weather is very much all over the place. One minute you're hot, one minute you're cold, next minute you're wet. It's a little bit of everything.
Yeah, cool. So let's get to it. What inspired the name of Pathways Counseling Clinic?
Sure. So Pathways Counseling Clinic, the name was inspired back in 2006. I decided I wanted to open up my own private practice. I was living in the state of Louisiana at the time. That's where I was born and raised. And that was before we moved to Georgia. And I wanted to find a way to integrate the faith-based element into the name as well as the logo. And so I started throwing around some ideas. And I had this idea. In fact, I talked to my father-in-law about it. I had this idea of what if we had this hill, and you can see it in the logo. What if we had this hill going up to the cross, and the cross was actually the T in the word pathways, and we had all of these lines, these trails, these paths going up to the cross, and so that was the idea of pathways. Is this I would sum it up in one saying: all paths lead to the cross. In other words, all paths seeking ultimate truth. Eventually, I believe you're going to find it within the redeeming work of Christ, and so that was the faith-based side of that. But also, too, as a licensed mental health professional, and I've got almost about 25 years of clinical experience in mental health. One of the things I found is that all of the different truths and principles that we learn within mental health counseling, all of those truths, I mean, so many of them tie to biblical principles as well, even if it doesn't stand right out in your face like that. And so I'm a big fan of integrating. I believe this. Truth is truth, no matter where you find it at. And so, anytime I can find truth, I'm going to use it. And so that's kind of how I integrate it into my approach.
Perfect. So, how does your faith-based approach influence your counseling methods?
Sure. Well, I look at it like this. I've actually been an ordained minister a little bit longer than I've been a mental health professional. About 2 years before I became a counselor, I became an ordained minister. So I can flow very easily between both of those perspectives of looking at things. So I've got clients that have come to me and they'll say, Rich, I've read your information. I've heard about you. You come highly recommended. Rich, if you could just take mostly a clinical approach with me, I would really appreciate that. Just as pure clinical as possible. I really don't want the faith-based element, but would that be okay? I'm like, absolutely. I'm here to meet you where you're at on your journey. So I'm going to respect you in that regard. I've got other people that have come to me and they say, Rich, that's great if you can teach me some clinical stuff. But honestly, if you could speak from a pastoral perspective, the faith-based language side, I would find that to be most comfortable as you work with me. So I can do that as well. And then most people that come to me, they're looking for a blended approach. They want the clinical tools, but they also want the faith-based element. And so I can wear both of those hats at the same time. I can shift back and forth as well because it's all about meeting you where you're at on the journey and helping you with whatever problems you're coming in to be worked on.
Perfect. So, how do you balance affordability with professional counseling services?
Yeah, that's always a challenge right there because anyone who's ever owned a private practice in the counseling world, yeah, it can not all of them survive. And so you've got to find a way, especially in the beginning, to keep your costs low, your business costs low, and at the same time still be able to build that practice, build the reputation. And so several different things that I've done. One thing that's helped me with making it affordable is the all throughout my private practice experience in both Louisiana and Georgia, I partner with churches to where they essentially it's a kind of in-kind swap where I provide them with a licensed mental health professional that they don't have to pay for to be on staff. They provide me with an office space, and it works beautiful like that. To where I'll take care of my own. I'll make it affordable on my end for the clients to come in. They give me the space, and so we have really good partnerships like that. But as far as making it specifically affordable for the client, several things that I've done within my business plan. One, for years and years, I was on numerous insurance panels to be able to make it affordable for the clients to be able to use their insurance and come to me and still be able to do that. Now, I had to change that around a few years ago because a lot of these insurance companies were not wanting to play nice by any means. And so, about 4 years ago, I started renegotiating all my contracts, and one by one, I started getting rid of the ones that weren't playing very nice because they were suppressing how much they were willing to pay reimburse for services. And so we eventually whittled it down to just a few. I've only got a small handful left that because they're the ones that were wanting to play nice. I've let go of the overwhelming majority. I've got a few of those, so that's one way of making it affordable. Also, too, know your market. I'm on the south side of Atlanta. If I was in Atlanta proper or even on the north side of Atlanta, which is a little more affluent, I could probably charge anywhere from 50 to 100% more than what I'm charging right now. So that's why here on the south side, I have made sure that I'm making it affordable for those that I'm not on their insurance panels anymore, still making it affordable for them. Honestly, though, somewhere in the next couple of months, I try to hold off every 2 years on raising my fee, and I keep it artificially suppressed because I do have the ministerial component to this where I want to make it very affordable. But I am somewhere in the next few months going to have to raise my fee just a little bit just to keep up with the cost of doing business because you know how economic forces how it works. All of and but here's another one last thing about that. Um, as therapists, we one of the things we're encouraged to do is to offer some pro bono services within what we do. And so there are, I don't advertise these. This is like a situation by situation basis, but there are some times where I can offer some pro bono services for extreme situations, and that's still going to be judged on a case by case basis. But I do carve out a few sessions a month to either have a drastically reduced amount that I would see the person at, where basically they call their shots, pay me what you can afford to, and even if you can't afford to pay anything in an extreme situation, I'm going to help you out. But obviously, to make it a successful business, I can't give away a lot of those. And so, those are all the different ways that we as therapists, and me particularly, we try to make it affordable for everyone to be able to be seen. But it is hard to see me, knock. It's really hard to see me. I have about a 3 month waiting list, and so I'm
Wow.
kind of like one of those. I'm like one of those little restaurants, little hole in the wall restaurants that you have to like pass around word of mouth. And once you get there, it's hard to get in. So, like I said, I love working with people, and every couple of months, I'm able to bring in some new people. But I'm just so busy. There's just one of me. I have one associate. He just specializes in marriage counseling, and so he's pretty busy as well. So yeah, we stay very busy around here.
Okay, very good. Can you describe the range of services you offer and their pricing structure?
Well, that might be a little difficult because, well, let's see. The range of services, as far as you're talking about specialties.
Yes.
Okay, yeah. So specialties, and obviously, if anyone ever wants to go to my website, pathwayscounselingclinic.com, you can see some of mine and my colleagues' bio information on that. But some of the different things that we primarily specialize in would be the basics of mental health counseling, as far as anxiety issues, depression issues, couples, marriage counseling issues, grief related issues as well. Those are some of the main areas that we focus on. As far as the pricing structure of that, we do a flat rate. Right now, the flat fee is 125, but that 125 a session for a 50-minute session. But that will be going up somewhere in the next few months. And like I said before, if we need to adjust it a little bit in certain situations, we may do that, but we can't always guarantee of doing that. And as far as if you're coming to me through insurance, then insurance has their own separate internal reimbursement rates. And so if I'm in network with their insurance, I explain to them how I'll file it for them. You go ahead and pay me up front. I'll file it. We'll let the EOB come back in a few weeks and show us if their deductible's been met, or if they have a copay or co-insurance responsibility if they have, and then we'll adjust accordingly. If I owe them anything, we'll either take the copay out of the surplus or reimburse them, and we'll go by the adjustment of what the insurance company has agreed to.
Awesome. So, what are some common challenges your team faces in a day-to-day operations?
Day-to-day challenges. Well, internet speed would be one of them, which that's obviously something that we can't control. Telehealth is a large part of how we deliver our services. Now, I still have an in-person location where I'll see clients at, but that's fluctuated a lot over the years. I'll give you an example. Back when COVID hit the world 5 years ago, I absolutely detested telehealth. I didn't want to have anything to do with it. Knock. I didn't like how like it's just a very different animal altogether to do a phone session or a video session. And so, but because of COVID, I was forced to have to adapt because, like people are staying at home, they can't come in person. And so I really stretched that muscle a lot and grew it to incorporate telehealth. And now I'm really glad that I did because I love it. I figured out how to do it effectively, whether it be a Zoom session or just a phone session. And so right now, I'd say with my caseload, I'm probably fluctuating somewhere around 70-75% of my clients are preferring telehealth services, but I still have that other 25% that wants to come in person. And so, probably the biggest challenge would be for in person, it would be weather. You can get rained out pretty easily if you're not careful. With telehealth, that's just going to be the bandwidth speeds, and also if the platform that you're using, the HIPAA compliant platform you're using, if it's not acting up. I'll give you an example. About a month or so ago, Zoom. I have a BAA agreement with Zoom to be able to provide my HIPAA compliant services through them, and they actually had a nationwide. You may have saw this in the news. They had a nationwide hacking thing that happened to them, and it knocked out their services one day for about, I want to say, about 5 or 6 hours. Well, that directly impacted me. I was having to switch over to phone sessions with clients because they were in the middle of, I think, a DDoS attack or something like that. And so, but that's because, I've used Zoom for 5 years with all this, and that's the one time in all those 5 years that we had an issue with it going down. So yeah, it varies from day to day. Most days are pretty smooth, but some days there are some challenges.
Okay. So we're gonna dive. So we're gonna dive into AI. What potential benefits or concerns do you foresee with AI mental health care?
Oh, that's a great question, Knock. So from what I've seen, I've seen pros and cons all across the board. Medical versus mental health. From those that I've talked to in the medical community, they are just so excited. They really are, because they have copious amounts of notes that they have to keep on a daily basis with their patients. And so having AI be able to, basically, you're dictating to AI, and AI is organizing all the different things. I mean, it's literally saving them hours and hours each day in having to do note maintenance. So that's a beautiful thing right there. Those of us in the mental health side of things, we have different standards as far as note taking and that kind of stuff that we have to do. We still have to to keep accurate treatment notes, but we're a little more cautious on the most part, because just because of the confidentiality piece. And that's not saying those in the medical side aren't concerned about confidentiality, but us, the con to it potentially is we don't know where that information is being stored, if it's listening to everything that we and our clients are talking about. And of course, we have to get permission to be able to record, whether it be video or audio. We have to get those permissions, and we usually only do that for training purposes. As far as, like, I'm also a clinical supervisor, and so when I'm training other people who are trying to work on getting their professional licensure, it is beneficial at times to record sessions and sit there and do feedback and go back and forth on looking at, okay, hey, you did great here. Well, how'd you feel about this right here? Let's use it as a learning opportunity. But when it comes to AI recording what we're saying and then organizing in a note form, probably not everyone is like me in the mental health side. There's probably a lot of them that totally feel fine with that. Me personally, I'm just not comfortable with that yet. I would like to know more about the storage of it, where that information goes, how the data is collated, where it's kept. How do we do with doing away with that data? Like, does it dump out after a while, or is it constantly living somewhere in a server? And so I would just need to know more about that before I would want to use it for my own purposes. But right now, I like my style of keeping my notes intact, and so I'm not looking to branch out into AI just yet. But I'm cautious and skeptical, but I'm hopeful that it may be able to answer those questions at some point. And then maybe in the future, I'm willing to use it. It might be like telehealth. Used to, I swore up and down, no telehealth whatsoever. And now I'm using telehealth and I love it. So, I got to be open to that. I got to be open to that adaptability.
Definitely. So, how do you plan to maintain the human touch in therapy while adopting technological advances?
The human touch. Well, that's a good question, because there's just no way that you can replicate the energy that you feel when you're physically in the same room with another person. And so you can't replicate that, because there's something very, I don't know, very spiritual about it, very esoteric about that. It's like, two people in a room talking, sharing. So you try to capture as much of it as you can through the technological piece of things, like particularly the video sessions, phone sessions. A famous study I love to reference, it's a metadata study that would have been done back in the 1970s by a former UCLA professor named Dr. Albert Moravian. He's kind of the gold standard out there when it comes to communication research, and he found, and I can shoot you a screenshot of this meme that I use if you want to put it up in post production. It shows a pie chart of, if you were to pie chart communication as far as the way that we deliver communication back and forth in a speaker listener conversation. If you were to look at a pie chart and that pie chart represents 100% of it, he found in his research that only 7% of the messages we send back and forth come through our word choice. Now, that's significant, because that implies that 93% of communication has nothing to do with the words that we use. I mean, it's kind of like the old saying, it's not so much what you say, but how you say it, how you deliver it. He further broke it down that 38% of communication comes through the tone of our voice, the sound of our voice, our inflection, and our volume level. And he lumped those two together because you can't really disconnect tone from volume because they happen at the same time. And then the remaining 55% of the diagram, it represents nonverbal communication. So micro expressions, how you're perceiving a smile or the slight lifting of the eyebrows or eye contact and that kind of thing. And so that with video, you still get to tap into 100% of that. Okay, that pie chart because you're seeing and hearing and the words and everything. Phone, you're only tapping into 45% of that because you don't have the visual, but you still get the other parts of that. I'm not a big fan of doing email therapy, even though that is an option to do things like that, because once again, that's only tapping into 7%, 93% we're having to sacrifice. So those are the challenges with incorporating the technological side. You can still get all of it through video, but you do miss out on that, connection in the same room. But once again, there's still pros and cons to all the different approaches. I can still do some really good work with someone, even if it's a phone session versus video versus in person. I've had a lot of success with clients because ultimately it's what they're looking for. Some people feel more comfortable with a phone call. Some people want a video session. Some people only want to be seen in person. So I'm going to adapt to what they're needing as best as I can.
Okay, I never heard of email therapy before.
Yeah, yeah. Basically, they can send you your emails, and they can send emails with questions, and then some therapists charge by the word, they charge by how much time they spend in responding to it, and they can do that. Me personally, I just don't find it to be very effective because I'm only getting 7 out of the 100. So,
Right.
but yeah, it is out there. It's an option. BetterHealth is one of those that actually you've probably heard of BetterHealth. They have a ton of really good marketing out there. That's I believe that's one of their services they incorporate into it as well.
Okay. So we're going to close off with some thoughts here. So, what future developments or expansions are on the horizon for Pathways?
Good question. Well, there's always going to be a component here where we're working directly with clients. Now, I may shrink my caseload over the years. In fact, I have shrunk my caseload over the years. I don't see as many clients on a weekly basis as I used to. But one of the things that I'm definitely looking for is there's going to be more writing involved. A few years ago, I actually published a therapy novel of mine that I took about 10 years to write, and so I've used that as a resource with my different clients, and it's been an incredible tool to use with them. So I've got that on my website. I've got other novels that I'm working on, short stories as well, and they all have the thematic element to them where they're incorporating the clinical counseling side within the story as well as the faith-based side, and got some adventurous stuff to them as well. Very relatable. So we're going to be doing that, writing some specific therapy books that are connected with different workshops and trainings that I'm doing for therapists. One of the things I love to do is to train the trainer, and so I'm actually what you would call an approved continuing education provider through the National Board of Certified Counselors, the NBCC for short. NBCC is one of the gold standards out there with providing high level counselor trainings. And so I really I kicked that into full gear last year, and so I've got a lot of trainings that I'm creating through this method I've created. I call it the storytellers method, and so it's a way of blending different counseling models together in a way of therapeutic storytelling, and it's a way of teaching abstract principles through concrete means, through the natural means of human storytelling. And so there's going to be a lot of trainings that are coming out with that over the next few years, really building that part of the mission up. So, because if I can train other therapists to do, like in tools that are going to equip them with, and they're more inspired, they're going to reach more people than I could ever reach just on my own. So it's really like a team building kind of thing.
Well, cool. So, how can listeners support or get involved with their mission?
Well, that's a good question right there. I would love for them to be able to connect with me through my website. If they want to reach out through that, they can reach out either at my personal website on there, rich at pathwayscounselingclinic.com. You can also reach me through info at pathwayscounselingclinic.com. If you want to check out my YouTube channel, my YouTube channel is if you look for At the Last Heart Book. That is my YouTube channel where I put different videos out where I'm sharing different teaching principles that are connected to the research that I did in writing that therapy novel, The Last Heart, that I mentioned a second ago. You can also check out another website of mine called the storytellersmethod.com. It redirects you to where I have my trainings up there, the current ones that are coming up. And so, yeah, if people want to inquire about that, if they'd like to help me out financially with it, if they'd like to be able to, come and pay and attend some of the courses, I'd love to have them be a part of that. And by the way, you don't have to be a therapist just to come to my trainings. If you want to get credit, for renewing your license, come to my trainings. But you can still be a part of my trainings just to be someone who's actively seeing how we do things. So I'd love to have that.
Perfect. So, lastly, any final thoughts or messages you'd like to share with the audience?
Good question. Final thoughts on that? Well, I'll tell you right that we're all on a journey, every single one of us, and we're all on this journey of healing. We're going in it together. And I really do believe that our creator is taking us through a healing process that it's not going to happen instantaneously, but he's working on this healing process with us. And I do not believe he's going to abandon any of us. I believe he's going to take us all through that process, shaping us into his image. I believe that someday there will be a day when every single one of us will be healed from everything that we've ever encountered that's hurt us or harmed us. Somehow we're going to be healed through that. And so sometimes counselors are nicknamed the wounded healers. And so I take that very serious in the way that I look at things. I'm wounded just like anyone else. That doesn't mean I'm perfect, because I'm your therapist, but I'm here to work with you and help you through that process.
Well, thank you, Rich, for hopping on to this episode. That was wonderful of you to hop on. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, sir. I appreciate it. Like I do with my clients, fist bumps through the internet.
We'll see you next time.
Thank you, sir.